Hello Ram. Good morning. So we'll be starting in another 2 minutes.
Sure, Kumar. Kumar, just I had a question in my mind.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think I'm the only one who'll be attending
Yes,
this.
yes.
I'm not
Prasad
sure.
informed me about it. Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay if we change the schedule?
Yeah.
Like,
What time? Like you're thinking you'll be comfortable?
I think it will be okay if we can make it as a weekend batch, Saturday and Sunday.
Mhm.
I'm not sure about your schedule.
Yeah. See, I'm fine with weekends, but just that the course will take a longer time if we do it on weekends. Because we can do it 2 hours, but if you're doing more than 2 hours in a weekend, then I don't think things will be that easy because it's too much to digest in the 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So that is what I'm thinking. Like I'll be okay to deliver 3-4 hours lesson on Mulesoft in a day, but will it be okay for you to
I
go through
think
that?
I think I should manage some way. Two
Mhm.
reasons. One is, I'm kind of very busy with office work.
Yeah.
A lot of things piled up from my side. I thought, okay, I can spend 1 hour every day to learn the new thing. But the office work is piled up in one side. The other reason is one of my friend who used to attend OIC batch, Prasad knows him very well.
Mhm.
He has joined in a new company yesterday, but for him, the project has not yet been assigned. But
Okay.
he is also interested to attend MuleSoft. He said if it is a weekend batch, I will be comfortable.
Mhm.
Um, if he has to attend on a daily basis, then he has to wait until which project he is going to be assigned and what is the time frame for everyday activity for him. So based on that, he said he can decide. But he is also very much interested
Okay.
uh, to go with the weekend batch.
Yeah, so like we can discuss this with Prasad once. I'll call him
Okay.
today and just ask him about what is his opinion,
Mhm.
because that's what I said. Like there's no problem doing it 2 hours on weekends. Uh, but yeah, that's what that will be too much to digest, and then it may like you will have to do it on your own also, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Until
somehow I need
mm,
to spend time during night times.
yeah,
I'm in the US for currently.
okay.
He's in India. He's in Hyderabad.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, if we can do 2 to 3 hours on Saturday and Sunday,
Mhm.
yes, of course, it's going to be a lot of things to cover in 2 to 3 hours. But somehow we may have to manage it. The
Okay.
bottleneck is from my side, right? So I think I have to take the chance. There is no other way for me.
Okay, okay. I'm like, if it's convenient for you, then it's better to go and do it on weekends. So yeah, we'll discuss this once with Prasad, and I think he'll be okay. I don't
Yeah.
think any issue coming from his side if we both are ready on this.
What we
So
can do, Kumar, we can start with today's schedule, because anyway we have already started, right?
Yeah.
So we will start today's thing, and I will also call the other guy tonight after the class,
Okay.
right? So I will make sure that he's also, he told me a couple of times, but I just wanted to make sure that he's okay to attend during weekends.
Okay.
So once he also confirms, then I will ask
Mm.
him to talk to Prasad,
Yeah.
right? So then we can come to a plan.
Yeah. Okay.
I see. I don't want to pressurize you also, because you are working somewhere and you may have something to do in weekends or personal work or something. So it's up to the schedule that you have.
Mhm.
I also understand your side, but if possible, I think that would be the ideal approach.
Okay.
If for too many people are there, then each one, they will have their own schedule, right?
Right.
Since
Right.
I'm the only one,
Mhm.
probably we can manage within ourselves.
Yeah, we have that liberty to be flexible
Yeah,
here. So yeah,
exactly.
we can definitely approach that way. And just that initial classes will be a little hectic. Then once we proceed with hands-on,
Mhm.
then I think anyways it one hands-on it's gonna take some time. So anyways, I was thinking to increase the time to 1.5 hour, like after
Okay.
10 classes. So
Mhm.
just that we'll start 2 hours classes in the weekends.
Okay.
Okay. So shall we start?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with the topic, which is the RAML spec definition, which yesterday we were talking about. So let us go through this diagram once again and recall things where we had left. So I said before doing any basic implementation in Mulesoft, we design an API spec in API Designer, and then do the simulation. We get the feedback and validate, and we get the RAML. So this life cycle, you will understand like why we are doing it and what is the advantages of doing it. So as I said yesterday that if we get uh, project where you want to fetch them data of employees from different table while connecting to database, and you want to connect to Salesforce to get some other details, and then you have to transform that data and provide an output. So if you're going to implement that actual implementation, so it will definitely gonna take time, right? You'll have to get that credentials for the test environment and dev environment where they are setting up the data. Then you have to make a connection. So it's gonna take some time. So to be flexible on the time thing, we just mock the data. So in this case, what we are trying to do is we are designing it, but we are not uh, connecting to the real-time data. We will have a requirement from the client that the data from the employee table will look like in this way, and they will provide us an example, and we can use as an example data. So this behaves like you're just querying it and getting the example data as input and showing the output. So if they see any issues in the output, they can just give us the feedback that this output doesn't look good. You need to change this table name. You need to transform this. You want to concatenate these things together and all this kind of stuff. So this is how it comes in handy. And within 1 or 2 days, you just define your API spec and you get the feedback. So this is why we are doing it. So when I started actually implementing my project, so I had this question that why we have to do this process, why we have to go through this process. But later in time, we realize, yeah, this is an important step to take. So now we are like implementing in every project which we design. Even if it's a small project, we use this habit of designing it and then implementing the basic project. So I'll quickly go to the chart once if it is not clear. So let me
When you
close it. Yep.
say when you say marking,
Mhm.
you said it's a sample data, right?
Right,
To get
right,
the feedback.
right.
So is it also possible? Suppose you take a Salesforce system, they have a development system or
Yeah.
uh, just a
sandboxes,
system or
different sources.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So we can also connect to those system and get the data and then send it to the user and see whether this looks okay, or you have to populate the data in some way for them to see whether it is okay or not. So,
Yeah. So the idea of mocking is we don't want to connect to any external systems. That is what
oh,
where we want to save time. This is just a design. So in the design phase, we don't connect to any external systems.
okay.
So
So during the design stage, suppose you have some sample data, right?
yeah.
But after going into production or after going into the next stage,
Mhm.
suppose if you don't get the data from the database,
Okay.
for example, you have some customer is asking some reference column to be displayed on the response, right?
Mhm.
So you don't know, but you can populate that reference column while you are designing.
Mhm.
But when you go to actually connect to the database, you may not find that reference column in the
Yeah.
underlying base tables, right? So in that case, how will we manage?
So in that case, we'll have to come back to the RAML
Hmm.
and remove that reference column. And again, we have to just update it. It's just updating the version. And it's because it's a issue from the database side, right? So
Yeah.
anyways, we have to alter our code. So we'll
Oh,
start from the RAML based, and then we have to move to implementation and remove that uh, table wherever it is in the implementation.
okay,
So
okay,
it works like in that way only. We don't have anything else to take care of it, right?
okay, okay.
So I'll just give you a small example at how the flow works. So this is the API spec RAML, which we will design first. Then this is in Anypoint platform. We are not designing it in Anypoint Studio. So just Anypoint platform. I'm just giving a short form for Anypoint platform.
So any point platform means the website that you showed
Websites.
yesterday.
Exactly,
Okay, okay.
exactly. The website. This is the website. So
Oh,
this
okay.
is the Anypoint platform. Like in many people will get confused that what is Anypoint platform and what is the studio. So to manage our API, to design our API, to get the things from Exchange, we use this Anypoint platform. Even people will design the whole code in Design Center, but that is not advisable because Anypoint Studio does that in a more efficient and a good way. So for designing and implementing, we use the Anypoint Studio, which is this IDE.
Okay.
Okay, and in
Suppose
mm,
I just had one question.
yeah,
Suppose if we are developing a complex API where
mhm,
it has a lot of microservices, right?
okay,
So in that case, if you are doing that in, I will be doing some part of that API. For
mhm,
example, some fetching some information, and some other guy will be doing other part of that API, right? So
yeah.
each one of us will be doing in our own individual PC. Then how that will be connected as a whole when it comes to the complete API?
Okay. So suppose you are calling a database system. So you will design your own API in here. Okay. So once that is connected and you have a requirement that this API or microservice is connecting to the Salesforce system as well, which your friend is designing. That
Okay.
is the requirement, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is this is a listener, right? So we are listening to some call. So after our output of our database output, we will have to connect to the Salesforce system, which the other guy is designing. So we will make a call to them. That is called the HTTP, and you have a request here. So
Okay.
we will just make a call to his system. So
Oh, okay.
whenever
Okay.
we are trying to talk to an external system, we have to use a request, or there are some other things also which it can use, but generally we prefer the SOAP HTTP, sorry, the HTTP request part. You can connect with SOAP also, but this is a better way to connect. But some systems will have SOAP connectivity, the legacy systems. So in that way, we have to connect through a SOAP call.
Okay, so this request will be connecting to the other
The
guys.
others API. Yes, yes.
Okay, where he will also have the listener.
Listener, yeah. He will be
So
listening to something, and then the transformations can take place. So we decide what data we want to send it to him in a request.
okay, okay, got it.
Yeah,
So if 10 people are working, each one is working on their own individual pieces. So this is how we need to connect.
exactly, exactly. That's how we get a project that you will be designing the employee part, you will be designing the user data part, you will be designing the Salesforce part, and then we can just implement and connect all the APIs together.
So, but when the final product is produced, like when it goes to production, and you will deploy everything onto Anypoint platform, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So where you don't need to have these requests that you created during your design or testing phase, right?
We will have to include this request. Without this, it can't it can't communicate the external services, right? Because this API which you will be designing, suppose it's a complex API of 10 or 15 processes, as I told you, it's a single code, right? Single code, and it will be deployed in a single worker. So
Okay.
the other API won't be deployed here. So we have to connect through a request only over the internet. It sounds right now it doesn't sound uh, like convincing, but when we do it in a better way, then you'll understand that how exactly it is working and how what are the benefits to it.
Okay. But when you deploy it onto the Anypoint
Hmm.
platform, then the local reference will be removed, right? See, suppose uh, I've completed my development, right?
Hmm.
And the other guy is also completed his development.
Right, right.
Eventually, it is going to be considered as a single API, right?
Okay.
So two people have developed. So the
No,
whole
no, no.
API is going to be.
One thing I'll need to just correct it that it won't be a single API. Whenever you're designing one code, that is saying one API. So I'll just show you. This is a
Oh,
hello world, right? So
yeah.
this alone is one API. This has all these parts,
Oh,
and
okay,
that's how it becomes an API. So you can't just stitch other code in this API, right? If you want to
okay,
add,
got
then you have to add different flows. So this is one flow, you'll add a different flow. So as I
it.
was talking about the layers, if you remember, process layer, system layer,
System
and
layer.
experience layer. So the idea is if you are developing a piece of code where you are connecting database and Salesforce, so that should reside in a system layer only. You don't have to create
Oh,
a
okay, okay,
database layer API and a system layer API. You can
okay,
just
okay.
connect it. Suppose a code is already there for Salesforce, as we spoke about reusability, that someone has already developed an API which fetches employee data or sales data from Salesforce. So in that case, we don't have to develop that API. We just have to request the data what we require from that API. So we'll just do a request call from for that API, and we'll get the data.
Okay,
So
okay,
that's
okay.
how reusability comes.
Okay, so each of them are going to work as microservices when it goes to
Exactly,
production.
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay. So as I was saying that this is hosted on Anypoint platform, and this is an API spec RAML. So once this is completed, what we do is we scaffold it and bring it to let me show this. Bring it to Anypoint Studio. This piece of code. So you will understand what I mean when we are scaffolding it to Anypoint Studio. In the coming lectures, you will get to know that what we are actually doing and how it will help us in the Anypoint Studio. Because as of now, you can see that we can easily create the listeners and payload and request everything here. Then why we need to import that API spec in our Anypoint Studio? So that we will be checking out in the coming lectures. But right now, we can continue designing our API spec RAML. Okay, so let me go to the module. So we'll start with what the RAML RESTful API modeling language is. So it's a language which is based on YAML. If you have heard of YAML and something like that, it's similar to that, which has a parent-child relationship. So when I say the parent-child relationship, it is between the resources and methods. So when we were discussing about a website about Make My Trip, we saw that it has different resources, which I was talking to, like flight resources, hotel resources, and different resources. So this is what we are defining here as in resource section. And these are the HTTP methods, the get method. If you want to fetch something from that flight details, then it was using the get method inside it. And if you want to add a new flight, you want to add some new flight to it, then we use the post method. Also, we were checking out flights based on the ID. Like we didn't wanted to get all the flight details. So in that case, we were passing the ID thing, right, in a URI parameter. So this also comes here, and it will again have its get feature and get method and delete method and put method. So this is how RESTful API modeling RAML will look like. So again, as we discussed that resources, these are the resources by the web service URL that you want to act upon using the HTTP method. So any YAML which you are designing will have to have a resource and that methods. So all resources begin with a slash. So this is an indentation where you have to use that slash before the resources, and then it will identify that it is a resource. And any method and parameters nested under resource belong to and act upon that source. So what does it mean? It means that if we have defined a resource called get or post under the flights, so it will work under this resource only. It won't work in a different resource. So if you have defined a get and you want to fetch for some other resource, so it will not work. So this is an important thing to keep in mind. And then we have nested resources. So nested resources are used for a subset of a resource to narrow it. So this example justifies this line that this is a resource which is returning 10 to 12 flights or more than that. And if you want to get a single flight out of it based on the ID or anything, so we use a nested resource. So if you carefully observe, there's a line starting here and the ID is in this place, just a tab space next to flights. So it is very much important to indentate your RAML. So without indentation, you will get an error. And RAML is only based on the indentation, how you provide the indentation. Then only how it understands that what it needs to do. So we have to be careful about the indentation, and it's sensitive like to CAPTCHA. So we have to see that it's case sensitive and have to use the proper get and delete methods and everything.
So we have to manually indentate these resource and child resources.
Yes, we have to manually do it, but when we start doing it, it sounds like like it's a bit difficult to see. But once you design one or two resources on your own, it will be very easier. And the thing is, it is reusable. So if someone is already designed few resources in your project, then for other people it will be just like spending 1 hour time and you can able to design it, because it is like the same thing again and again. You'll not be doing a coding kind of thing where you'll have to implement a new logic. It's just a set of instructions which you are providing.
Okay.
So
So it gives us more readability. At the same
yes,
time, that's how it works. Suppose
exactly.
if I want to add a new resource
Hmm.
later, it will be easy for me. Okay, this is the root resource and this is the child of it. So where I should be adding the new, right?
Exactly. That is a very good point which you have put. So that is how it helps us to redesign it and add new features without even like suppose you have worked on some project and you have left that and some new person comes, so it will be helpful for them also to add this new resources.
Yeah.
So now coming to the API designer, where we will be designing our RAML. So I'll just give a quick intro about how it looks. And so this is fine for you, or should I go on a full screen mode?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So this is how an API designer will look like. So it is again present in Anypoint platform. So in the left side, you will see a file browser. Why we use this file browser will come when we see the editor section. So this is the editor section, and this is the place where you'll be writing the RAML spec for your project. So it starts with RAML 1.2, which is the version right now. Then it will have a title of your American Flights API, any which one you're designing. So it's an American Flights. So that's why. Then we are using types. We'll speak this in the later classes. Like today we can cover this thing also. Then we have traits, responses, everything in here. So this is the editor, and this is a shelf which will help you to uh, I mean, it gives suggestions that if you have made a resource, then the next thing is you will have to have a method. So this provides suggestions to us, and it is helpful. You don't have to actually write, you just have to click and it will come without that indentation. And in the right side, you will get an API console. So consoles helps us to summarize what we have written and how it will look at an API endpoint standpoint of view. So if you see, we will not be able to understand much from this code, but when we see this endpoints, we will be pretty sure that it has a flight resource, and where we are getting that resource. We have a get method and we have a post method in flights resource. And it has another nested resource, which is flights and ID, which hosts three methods. So it gets quite clear from this API endpoint and API console. Coming to the file browser, why we use it? Just for the usability purpose. So if you have already made some codes already in your project, and that is uh, posted to Exchange, so here you can just get it from Exchange and use it in your code. You don't have to write that code again. Or even you can just add example file. Suppose in some cases we get that example files from our BTS, like business analyst or someone, that this is our requirement, this how our input should look like, and this is how our output should look like. So in that case, we will just use that example files, and we will just import it and store it and refer it in our editor. So we
So
will,
in case if we
yeah.
have to insert something, so see in this screen, we have some code, right? Traits
Mhm.
and we have, so if you want to insert something in between, for example, some example file or something,
Mhm.
is it possible or it will mess up the indentation?
Yeah. So that's what we have to be careful about the indentation. If you know the right place where you want to indent it and insert that example file, so it won't be a problem. But if you don't know, then it's gonna give you a hard time for that. But my suggestion is don't worry too much about this API spec, because if you go to any project, they will already have defined all the things, and you just have to copy their code and just use it in your sense. So most of the things will be already present, because it's a one-time thing, right? And you just have to use the same things and reuse it. So generally developers will not focus much on the API spec. Instead, they will develop focus on the Anypoint Studio part. So this is just a 20% and 50 to 20% of a developer's work.
Okay.
Main thing is the implementation, like, because giving example input and giving the output example, it's very easy, right? That I want the input in this side and I want output as this side. But to get that transformed, the data, that is where you have to show your skills in implementation. So we'll go to the our first walkthrough, which is the hands-on. So we will use API designer to define an API with RAML. So our objective will be to create an API definition with RAML using API designer. So we will define resources and nested resources. We'll define get and post methods, and we will add a query parameter also to that. So let's do that in Anypoint Design Center. So we are in the Anypoint platform here. Let me just, yeah. So once you are here, you just have to click the Design Center as we are designing the API spec. Then you have to come here, and as I was showing, you have to create a new button, and then you'll have different options: a new API spec, new fragment, new mule app, new async API. So in our case, we have to define an API spec. So define how the API will behave and how it communicates with other systems in API. So this is what we will be creating. So as soon as you click here, it asks you a API title, that what is the title of your project. So our case, we will give it as an American Flights API. And just give it to one. So this, there's no limitation that you can do it through RAML only. There are a few people who will use their code to implement this, but it is like more of a slower and older kind of way to define a RAML spec. But very few number of people who are not familiar with RAML, they're still doing with the code logic. So you have other things also where you can define in another way. But I think RAML is best suited in Anypoint platform. So most of the people use RAML only. There's a Swagger also, but I haven't used it any time. I didn't get a chance to use it. So yeah, there is options to use a different language if someone is not comfortable with RAML. So we will just create an API spec. It'll take a few seconds to load and to fetch all the tips. So what currently it's doing is it's getting the exchange properties for us. So if we see, it took 2 to 3 seconds for us to get to this window. So it was doing an API call again to the exchange and getting us the details, which I'll show you here. So we already got a file called exchange.json. So this is what it was trying to do, that main name and classifier RAML tags. So we will call this as a root file. This is where we will define all the API spec and everything. So this is the RAML 1.0. So which version it is, it's showing, and this is the title. So our motive is to design an API where we'll have that flight resource and things like that, flight get method and everything. That is what we want to design today. Just give me a minute and we'll start for this one. So are you clear about that flight method which we are going to design? Like what is the end product in the mind?
Yeah.
Okay. So as I said that it's a resource, so we will start with an slash and we will give the flights. So this defines our first resource. So you will see that we will be getting an error if you're doing any mistakes. So it's like it gets a chance to just review your code and why it is showing a error here. So I haven't given a colon here. That's why it is giving a red mark. So as soon as I give a colon, I'm able to see the flight's endpoint here. But as we haven't defined any get method or anything, that is why it is not showing any endpoints yet. It is just showing the flight resource. So next will be to add get method. So I just pressed enter and I was already there at this indentation. I did not have to come to this indentation. It gives you options that yeah, you have defined a resource, so automatically you will be coming to this indentation. So I'll just provide a get. So I was telling you that there will be an API shelf which will help us to give suggestions, right? So you have to pull this arrow out. So sometimes it's not visible. So you have to just click this arrow and you will get what is there for you. So my arrow cursor is right now in flight resources. So we don't have any suggestions here. That's why we are not able to see anything. As soon as you press and enter, you will get all the suggestions that what are the possibilities which you can use here. So we will just look on the possibilities, what things we can use after the resource. So the first things comes into the mind is the methods. So this is all the methods which we can use: delete, get, head, options, patch, all the HTTP methods. Then this is docs, like just to write your name, that this resource, what it will do, what is the description, just to make our code more readable. So we can provide a description here. Then this is types entries. This will come in later part, that what it's a data type or what kind of it is. And then is a security. So many projects are using security at their API spec also, but it depends on project to project that do you want to do a secure property here or not. So that is a like more a kind of advanced thing which we can see in this session, or sometime when we get some other free time. So we'll start with our get resources. So as soon as I click the get resource, again, it came to this point and it is showing the different thing what we can add, like a body, again, the description, that headers and all these things. So what we will do is we will come back a space back, and we will add another resource called post.
So the number of spaces on the indentation,
Mhm.
is it determined by the
UI.
this UI itself, or do we have to have some specific, suppose some people, when I press the tab, it by default it moves 5 character space, right?
Mhm.
And some people, they may have set up at their system with 8 characters, something like that.
Okay.
So is it the way it works here, or can we change that indentation number of characters to be moved, or?
So I think it can work in the UI, like as you press and enter, so it will automatically come onto an indentation level,
Oh,
and you
okay.
don't have to worry about indentation. If you see here, you're getting the options, and you know that after the resource, I want to do a get method.
Mm.
So if I remove these things, and again if I come back here, and if I don't get here, if I come to this indentation, I won't find that get method.
Oh, okay,
You
okay.
cannot see that, right? So it has to be a parent child. So this is a parent, so indentation should be inside it. That's how we will get to know. So this is also a way that you are on a right path or not.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Otherwise, that suggestions will not be even.
Suggestions will not come, and you'll be thinking like that something is wrong, and then you have to check the indentation. So this actually this API spec raml, we don't cover it in the like starting sessions, because some people will just get scared of it and will not continue doing MuleSoft. So how we designed it is like after 5 or 6 sessions, we
Oh,
used to give this lecture. But as
mm,
you said, you were interested in this one, at how we are doing an API spec YAML. That's why we thought, yeah, it's good idea to start with this, because
okay.
if you know the flow, then it will be a lot more easier to understand MuleSoft. Because if you go to the training which is provided by MuleSoft for MCD, it is kind of similar to this structure only. They're also showing the same flight example. I've taken it from there only, from the official training website. Most of the things are from the training website, but I am adding things which are not covered in that, like which are already implementing in project. So I'm adding that part and then covering it. So if you do it from there, then it will be very confusing, because they will not tell you how the flow is going to happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually I went through it long back.
Mhm. Mhm.
I couldn't understand what they are
Exactly,
trying.
exactly. The training is like designed in a very very beautiful way and understandable, but the connectivity is not proper. That's what I thought of. There are many
See,
students
they
who have.
make if
Mhm.
they make everything easier,
Right, right.
then
So
no institute will start this, right? So
exactly, exactly.
each software vendor, they have their own catch point internally.
Right. So even I have attended the trainer session also for Mulesoft FCD. I've got a chance to attend, and they're also like they will just show you the bits and pieces that this is API spec RAML, this is implementation, but how it is actually getting connected, you will have to figure it out on your own. They will not
Okay.
show you that starting that how it is getting connected. Okay, anyways, we'll move to other things. So we have created, as you can see, the flight resources is completed and we have get and post method, right? So as you remember that we had one more resource called ID, where we have to just check with the ID. So we will add that ID also. So it was an URI parameter. That is why I am giving a curly braces. So whenever we have an uh, a URI parameter, then you have to provide a curly braces. This is important part. And now you can see there is an error in our console. So why it is happening? It's happening because of the indentation. So I have to just get a space back and this will go. So this should come under the get line or the flights. This is a flight resource and this is under the ID line. So once I get this, then I will again get the get resource here.
This looks like this is not looking like a child resource, right, of that flight, because it is coming under the flights
Correct. So
directly.
the child resource, it's not a child resource, it's a nested resource. Child
Yeah,
is the methods. Okay. So
okay.
this is a nested resource. So what
But
will
it
happen is,
still comes under flights, right?
yeah, it still comes under flight. So if you go to a new browser and if you want to get this one, so you will be querying it like this: flights, then slash, then your ID, which you are passing.
Yeah.
So this is how it will work. So that is why we haven't given any like flights and then ID. That's how it will work in the long picture. So now we have got two API endpoint, which is get, post, and get. Now we will add query parameters. So I think if you remember from the first session that we were doing, when we were querying the flight API, we had a chance to set the destination also, right? We could set the destination and we could get flights which were belonging to that destination. So for that, it was having query parameter. So that is why we want to add a query parameter to the get resource. So whenever we are doing a get resource, we want to specify a query parameter. So again, we don't have to write anything. It's coming up here. We just have to click it. So as soon as we click the query parameters, it is up here. Now you have to define the name of the query parameter. That what will be the name of my query parameter. It can be anything. In our case, we are using as destination. Okay.
We also pass the date, right?
Sorry, the date.
Yeah, the date of the travel.
The date of the travel, uh, that was in Make My Trip, if I remember, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
This is the API which we are trying to develop, which,
American flights. Okay.
yeah, American flight. So it didn't have that capability. Yes, we can add the capability of giving the dates, but it will become a more complex code. So we will go with that query parameters for the destination. So whenever you give a query parameter or anything of that sort, you have to provide that it's required or it's not required. It's a kind of primary key. Suppose if you don't give the primary key and it will not work, right? It's like that only.
Okay.
So you have to specify a required. Again, when you come here, you will already getting a parameter option, and
Oh,
parameter
it's
you
all
can define.
attributes.
Yes, what is the maximum length it should have. You can just filter out things like here, right? What is the minimum length? What is the required? So I can give you a use case here. And that a few days back, I was designing an API spec which required a phone number to be passed in query parameters. Okay, phone number of any user. So we used a parameter called max length and min length. So to restrict the phone number from like a 10 number of 10 digit is the phone number. So to
Mhm.
restrict that, we use the max length. So the user is not providing a 9 number or 11 number phone digit, and it just a small addition to the addition of a phone number check can save you many dollars, right? How it can save that? If you do a check here only at the time of at the starting time only, then it will not go to all the other API calls
And
and
this is not possible in OIC. When we use REST API and SOAP services in OIC,
Mhm.
that also has a template parameter and a query parameter, but you don't have. Okay, this is the
limitation to that.
maximum limitation,
Mhm.
maximum length. No, there is
Yeah,
no.
you can perform more of the task also. It's just showing the default values. Think we can use more things also and can define at your own. But this suffice maximum use cases which we have. So for destination, I just want that it should not be a mandatory field. Suppose you don't like on that day we were doing, so it was not a mandatory field if you remember,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'll show you that also. Just a second. I'll just remove that part. Okay, let me remove this. So yeah, it's a better idea to do it here. Okay, so as I was showing you, this is the resource manager folder where we store all the things, and here we have the API endpoints. But what I didn't show you in the PowerPoint slides is we have a thing called uh, let me show you the mocking service here. Okay, so whenever if you want to do the mocking service, you can do it in the starting only. You don't have to wait for the project to complete and then you'll mock it and get the ID and sample data. You can do at any point of time when it is ready. So we'll just use the get resource now and see what we are getting. Okay. So you just have to type, click the get and go to try it. So this is the mocking service URL, which is already defined by Mulesoft. So we'll just use a try it, and you can see the request URL is there. Query parameters is not coming. It's just an optional thing now. And we will do a send. So as soon as we do a send, what we get is 200 HTTP status code and we get a blank array. So it's obvious that we haven't defined anything. So by default, it gives you a 200 OK status and a
Mm.
blank array. So next objective will be to add the flight details, that whenever we're doing a get resource, we should be getting all the flights here, right?
Okay, the payload will be visible here.
Yes, exactly. And that will be an example payload. It won't be a real-time data of the flights. So moving to the console, we were adding the query parameters here. So let's add the query parameters and the name as destination. And so by default, if you don't provide anything here, so it will take as a mandatory field that it will be a mandatory field. But we don't want query parameters to be a mandatory field. We want users to get all the flights and we want them to filter also. So that is why we are like doing it forcefully. We are making it a non-mandatory field by keyword called required,
Oh,
and we
okay.
are passing it as false. So most of the things which you do in a get parameter are mandatory fields actually. If there are 10 fields, so 9 out of 10, 9 will be mandatory and only few one or two will be non-mandatory. So that's how we will pass false. And if you want, you can use the required and true also. So it's a good best practice to write. Like some people will not use the required, okay? They will just
We go
think
with the
that yeah, it
default.
is default, but it's a good practice to use the default if it even if it's a true also. So we got the required as false. Then as we come here, we have to show them that what are the destination they can choose from. It's a pick list kind of destination. They are not they will not be able to give the destination exactly. So that's why we will use this enum parameter, and then we will give the different you can say the code of the destination. So again, I didn't give a space, so it was again showing an error. So that's how you will see.
This reminds me the Cobalt programming.
Okay, okay. So
I used to do Cobalt programming long back.
Cobalt. Okay. So this was like similar to that, right? I've
Yeah,
heard of
where
Cobalt,
you'll
but
have a
not.
numbers,
Mhm.
where you'll have a line numbers, but
Okay.
even if you make a small dot, it will throw out the whole code as a compilation error. It will
Okay.
give you 1,000 lines of error messages.
And then you'll not be able to figure out where exactly it got.
Yeah, that is the challenging part in
Yeah.
Cobalt.
So it right now it's not like present in the market much, na Cobalt, or it's still people are using.
Cobalt, people are still using in the mainframe side, but there is no new projects or anything.
Right, right. So we have added the query parameters, right? So again, we'll go back to the console and check what is the difference we are getting in our flight resource. So let's go back to the get resource part. And now if you see, you get a query parameter as destination. Okay. So the things will be visible here also. So again, we'll do try it. And now just let me just expand it a bit more. So it is giving us an query parameter SFO, LAX, CLE. So right now it's false. So I will not provide anything and I'll just send again, try sending again. And I will see that, yeah, again, it's returning a empty array for me. And even if I do a SFO or anything, it will again respond in empty array because we haven't defined anything in response section yet. So by default, it's giving a blank array. And just to prove that point that if you give it true, so I'll provide it as a true. And let's see what is the difference we get. Let's go back to summary once, get resource. So now if you see string required, and then we will try it again, and you have to pass it. There's no other way. Like you can't choose a blank thing. You have to pass it and then you can do it. So that is how it is working behind the scenes.
See, here we define all the input parameters, right? SFO, lakhs, and
Yeah.
Cleveland, all those things. Is there any way, suppose I am maintaining all these parameters in kind of
Hmm.
lookup table kind of thing. So, see, for example, if you're running a program where you have to choose a parameter, so the parameter will be showing as a list of values. The list
Hmm.
of values basically coming from the database table or
Right.
lookup definition. Is it possible to get some kind of lookup values from the database table or something?
I don't think so. It's possible, but I'm very not very sure on that. But it will make it very, very complex. This is just a place where you just define the basic things. Okay, we are not trying to actually implement the code. So just have to define basic things, and then when you are implementing it at that time, I understood
Oh,
your question, right? That you want to do a lookup on a table. So again, it comes as an implementation part. So you don't have
oh,
to do that implementation here.
okay. This
So
is just a design.
exactly. It's very confusing. I can understand that people will come back and forth in implementation and design. So this is a place where we are just designing. So even if you have a lookup table, you should know a few values and just provide it here. And then
Oh, okay.
when we are doing a real implementation, then you can do it. So I can give you a real a real project based example where we were doing a lookup from Oracle tables. Okay, so we had a BI call for that. So we had an US country, sorry, US state, and we wanted to fetch the county of it. So what we were doing
Okay.
is we were just sending the state name to the Oracle table, and we were getting back the county. So
Okay. And that counties will be displayed as a list of values.
uh, no, it won't be displayed as list of values. So like in our implementation. So this thing, whatever looks like you're seeing here,
Mhm.
will be at user part. So it will be kind of a web page. If I can give you an example of web page, so they have to input the values. Okay.
Oh, okay. But it was not part of this API.
No, it wasn't a part of. So I'm talking about a project where a person has to just submit the order. Like it's a reimbursement kind of website where he had purchased something. So he will just give the state name and he will populate the county that yeah, this is this county, and he will upload the bill. But when we are doing it on a back end, we will be checking that county is correct or not. We will not just see the input and provide the county in, right? Because people sometimes can provide a wrong input. So
Oh,
even if we
looks.
have the input, we will just make a BI call and check what is the county of the state. And if we get a different county from the state, then we will reject that bill. That yeah, this is not the right county, and so
So
on like that.
where that call will be made on that web page? Is it through the mule code, or that will be
No,
done
no,
as?
there will be no code made on the web page. In the web page, you just have to insert your data. Okay, when inside it's like suppose I'll show you one example. So there's a site called which Anypoint Platform. So this is a website, Anypoint Platform.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a web page, right? So let's go to sign up. So here you have to provide all the things like full name,
Yeah.
email, phone number, company, everything, right? So
Yeah.
user will provide the full name, and this is again an API. What
Mm,
would it do is, and you will provide your email ID also, right?
yeah.
So this will take everything, and then in the back end, in the implementation, this all details of 6 7 lines.
Mm,
We will take it and do a email call, so Gmail call. So this forwards you a link, right? Then only you'll be able to sign up.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
take your email ID and then call that HTTP Gmail thing, and then it will send you a code. So that was happening in implementation, not in the web page. So we are not doing anything. Like I understood your question that you were thinking that if you do a lookup, so it should come here, right? Like
Yeah.
Salesforce,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
but it doesn't work like that. It's just an API, so it doesn't have that capability yet.
Oh, okay. So if you want to, suppose in our use case, if you want to display all the state or all the counties under
Mm-hmm.
different states in US,
Hmm.
so you will just get the detail. Like I may randomly enter something on that,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Uh, Then you take that and then you validate against the database and
exactly,
then throw an
exactly,
error back here, right? The
exactly.
value.
Yes, yes. So I'll just remind you that it's an integration tool, right? We are understanding and learning about integration tool. So if it was Salesforce, we had that capability that we will get the lookup things and we'll get all the values. But
Yeah.
it will not. This Mulesoft will not have that capabilities to show up all the values. It's just connecting external systems and integrating it. So that
Okay.
is
Okay.
why. And as we have come to this page, the Mulesoft anypoint.mulesoft.com. So whenever you have time, you can create an account here. So you'll be able to do the
Is it
hands-on
for
on.
free or?
This is for free. So there's a catch that it is available only for 30 days. So after 30 days,
Oh,
whatever you have developed will be just vanish and it will go away. So it's
okay.
valid for 30 days, and after 30 days you can get this account again, but you have to use a different email ID.
Okay. Okay. Sure. But all the projects, whatever we have deployed, everything will be gone.
Yeah, that will be gone. There is a way to keep it in a different way, but
So you can download it in as a jar file somewhere and then you
yes,
can
yes,
re-upload it. Okay.
you can do that. Yes. So I'll paste this in our chat so you can sign up. And if you have any query, like we can address in the next session. So this is important to just sign up to this website.
Okay. Okay.
Then only it will be able to do the hands-on. And the next thing which I want to show is just download the Anypoint Platform IDE also. So it's not required in the next session as of now, but it's good to just download it and keep it. So it is again free. It's not chargeable for normal edition. So just have to download the Anypoint. Just a second. Just type Anypoint
It's
Studio.
yeah, any desktop tool, right?
Yeah, and download Anypoint Studio. So download 30-day free trial again. So you just have to select the operating system, Windows, and you have to give the first name, last name, and just download it. So if you have already, the first thing you should do is should sign up for this Anypoint
Mm.
Platform page. Then you will not have to provide all these things because you'll already be logged into Anypoint Platform, and you just have to give
Oh,
Windows, and you can just download it. So once you download it, it will be a jar file. Sorry, the jar file of 2 GB, and then we can work out that you need to do any
okay.
other
This
things. All
is this one has, I mean, this doesn't have the 30-day limit, right? Development Studio.
again, it comes to
Any point.
30-day free trial.
Oh, the tool also.
Yeah, yeah. But I think you can use it. I'm not having any issues using it, but I don't know why they say a 30-day trial free period. I think it's because the Anypoint platform is integrated with the studio. Maybe that's why they're saying.
Okay.
Okay. So if I show it here, Anypoint Studio, I will not have to provide all the details because I have uh, already signed up in this Anypoint platform. So I can just directly download it here, I believe. So see, I'm not getting any sign up because I've already logged in. That's right. So any Windows, Mac,
Okay.
and just agree and just download it. I'll show once. So it's easy to download now.
Yeah, I can download.
Yeah. Okay. So we have completed till here, and you can see all the the mocking services and everything. So I'll cover a few more topics. So you want to continue now, or we can do it in another
We can
session?
continue now.
Okay.
We can just put some logical stuff.
Mhm. Okay. So what I will do is I can just show you how it is working in like mocking service, how it is working. Right now we saw just the get part, right? So we will see how the mocking service is actually working. So this is the mocking service, and you can till now we could see to ourselves only, but if you want to give it to the business and show it to them that how it will look like, you can just make this slider as make public slider, and then you will have a public link. So this is
So,
accessible by anyone, and you
okay.
can just set an expiration date also. So you can set a future expiration date, let it be 11th, and then we will copy it. So once
We'll
you
provide
copy it,
this link to them, right?
yes, yes, we can provide. Normally we don't do it in this way actually, because they already have, the business will already have access to our design center and everything, right? So we publish to Exchange with this button, and then they look at there. But just for different developers, if they want to see that if it's coming right, then this comes in handy. So you can use any REST client, and you can just come to a new window, remove this, and just add this. So if you see this URL, we don't see a flights URL, right? Flights
Yeah, yeah.
vessels. So we have to just provide that method. I mean the resource. So once you give the flight and it is get method, and you will send it. So request validation error. Okay, so see
We
it
haven't
is
set up the
showing.
listener, all right?
Sorry.
Our business. No, we haven't specified any listener port or anything, right? Is it
Yeah.
because of that or?
No, no. So that listener port is not. It comes into picture only when we are doing an implementation in Studio. So
Okay,
if you
okay.
remember here, then it should listen to it, right? But this is the whole logic of Anypoint platform, that we don't have to set up anything. That is how we are saving time.
Okay, okay.
So we are getting a public link, and if you see, it throws an error here. that request validation error requires parameter destination is missing. Why it is happening? Because we have made this as true, required true. That
Okay.
is why we are getting a parameter destination is required. If you made it false, and then again go back to mocking service just to take a different URL, that URL will work, but still to be on the safe side, we'll just take another URL and copy it. I think the same URL, and then just let's see the same URL. We just have done the changes. Invalid media type. Okay. So I think we have to provide the media type also here. Then only we'll be able to see. So you can see that now the error of destination has gone because we made it as a false here. So that error has gone, but still we are getting one error. That is that error trying to find response for invalid media type. So whenever we are doing a get request from any client like Postman or ARC, we have to provide what you see. There's a thing called headers. You have to add this header, and there's a accept content type. So what kind of headers we want to get in response. So it should be an application JSON. Think in this way it should work. Yeah. So just by adding the accept response in an application JSON, the format, we are getting what we had before, right? That it should be
Okay. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
blank array. Okay. So this is I've shown you how the it works in API specifications. So the next thing which we have to add is it's a bit complex. So if we start today, I don't think we'll be able to cover that one.
We can continue tomorrow, not a problem.
Okay. Okay. So let me see if we have any slides which we can cover today. So this is again the development life cycle. So this one we completed. Use an API designer to define a YAML. So we defined the resources and nested resources. We defined get and post methods. We specified the query parameters. So I think this also we completed that testing API design without code. So this is what we did now that we mocked our API and we saw this two methods and we use the try button to get it. And again, we use the mocking service and then we got it in API console. So then comes the again the second walkthrough. I think this also we covered right now. That's simulating an API. So this is also covered. It's the same thing which I saw that we can generate a shareable link which does not require any authentication and share with the outside stakeholders. So this is also done. So this is as I said that to get an early feedback, we use mocking service to test the API before even before it is implemented. Okay, so this is all the same thing. The next is defining method response details with rammers. This is what I was talking with. Right now we are getting a blank response, but we want our response of all the flight details. So in the next class, we will be implementing this response at how we will get the flight response. Okay, so any questions apart from this you have till now?
Yeah. So far, I'm kind of understood how this works because um, earlier I had a doubt how the whole software piece works, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And this works in a little bit different way.
correct, correct. Yeah, so even when I started the training, I couldn't able to connect all the dots. I was just doing the hands-on and training and everything, but I couldn't connect the dots that how exactly it is working. It's even after coming to the project, I got to know that how exactly things are connected and how it is happening. So it's good that you have understood in the like three to like it's a third session and you understood that. So yeah, it's very good for that. Okay,
I will have to
so
explore more on this.
yeah, definitely. Okay, Ikram. So
Yeah.
we'll speak to Prasad and then we can see that if we can continue from tomorrow or it is feasible to do it on a weekend. Okay.
Sure, sure, sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a
So
nice day. Yeah.
he will be sending email, or I think if he's okay, he can WhatsApp me,
Mhm.
or if you can send me email also. I think you have my email, right? Or you don't?
Yeah, yeah, I can get it from him. So I'll speak to him. I think right now he's in some classrooms already. He'll be free in some time. Then I can speak to him and he can update you directly.
Sure, 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 sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Kumar.
Have
Thank
a
you very
nice day.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too. Bye.